You're listening to Monday Matters, a Principal Matters podcast production.
Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, along with my co-host, Dr. Jen Schwanke, back for another Monday Matters. Jen, it's second week of June. Some folks are celebrating, sitting by the pool, enjoying their freedom, and others are like, graduation's almost here. I'm thinking of like my friends in Connecticut. But pretty soon they'll be experiencing a little more freedom too. I hope you're having some fun over the summer, and congratulations, because you had a senior that graduated this year.
Yes, he's done and getting ready to head off to college, make a little money in the meantime. Yeah, it's all good.
It will be good. Well, we're going to have some fun this summer. My son Jack has just finished his first year of college and did great, and he's mowing yards and doing all those things that you're supposed to be doing in the summer. But we'll take a little bit of time to do some climbing. We've got a couple of kayaks we love to throw on the lake when the weather gets hot, and then you and I will be hopefully seeing each other in July in Seattle, because the Ignite conference is coming up there. But I wanted to just take an opportunity today for this Monday Matters. And if anyone's listening in for the first time, our flagship shows on Wednesdays. And so you want to listen in for the guests that we get to interview each week there. But Mondays are just a chance for you and me to check in. And we've been just talking through some of the content from my new book, Whose Permission Are You Waiting For? An Educator's Guide to Doing What You Love. And this week I wanted to talk about some content from a chapter called Building Systems That Produce Outcomes You Want. And I'm just going to say, Jen, that you've probably been one of the most helpful people for me whenever I'm facing a really difficult, conundrum, or maybe it's even a question from a listener. And you tend to remind me that usually things can fall into one of two buckets. Either this may be a people problem, or this may be a systems problem. So what are we talking about here? And so I want to talk about systems, because I think sometimes, yes, your mindset, your understanding, your ability to work with others, all that's super important. Trust is amazingly important. But so is the ways that you build the systems that produce the outcomes that you want. And in this chapter, I tell the story of a good buddy of mine, Dave Sanowich, who's a retired administrator and lives in Maryland now, and he loves to sail. And he's invited me up a couple of times to sail with him. And the thing I love about going out with him to sail is he always has a plan. And in the couple of nights before, he'll tell you what the plan is, and he'll have a plan A. If the weather goes this way, it's plan B, and if it goes this way, it's plan C. And as fun as it is to sail, it's only fun because he works his system. He's already planned out everything that's going to happen in advance, and then he works that plan towards that end. And so one of the questions that I chew on, because I've heard other leaders say this, is if you keep having the same outcomes over and over again, and they're not the ones you desired, then maybe you need to reexamine the systems that are creating the same outcomes that you continue to see over and over. And so when it comes to thinking about your own growth in your own goals and your own pursuits and your own journeys, I just want to get really practical and ask you to think about what is it, the things that you're wanting to really achieve, whether it's within your school or even with your own growth, and then show me the systems that you've set up toward that goal and towards that end. And so let's just sit there, Jen, for a few minutes. What are some practical ideas you would want to drop into this conversation too? Because this isn't just my thoughts, but about some of the just habits and strategies and systems that help achieve those things that you really want to accomplish.
Right. This is a passion area of mine, and some listeners may have heard me say this before, but I used to very much be in the camp of hire good people and get out of their way. And then I watched really, really good people just get, knocked down at the knees by bad systems. Burnout, exhaustion, decision fatigue, negativity, toxicity, because the systems aren't there. And by systems, I mean things that happen every time, protocols, policies that you adhere to, no exceptions. You and I led a PD with some New York administrators a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that I said to them is, to be a principal, to be a school leader takes such a mental load. It's exhausting, partly because there's so many decisions to be made. And so principals need to automate anything that they can, which frees up the mental space to make decisions and lead more spontaneously when it's called for. So the example I gave, it was a silly little one, but I used to every single day at 11:35 have to make a decision about recess, indoor or outdoor. And I would get out all the weather apps and I would look and I would think, and then the secretary would be like, well, we have to tell the teachers, and the teachers would question me. And then, well, this app said one thing and this app, and it was exhausting. And so then I decided I need to make a system for this. And the system is this temperature, this likelihood of rain. The decision is made at 3:30. The decision is announced in this place. And it took absolutely all the guesswork and thought out of it. It was automated. And you could even automate your system can be built such that it doesn't even touch you as the leader. The system could be go to this other person for a decision. This is who makes the decision. So that's just a silly little example, but every single department, so to speak, in a school, whether it's finance, whether it's teaching and learning, whether it's operations, whether it's facility, human resources, we need to have systems in place to identify whether it's a people problem or a systems problem. And if it's a systems problem, it's pretty much guaranteed that there's a solution out there.
And I think that leaders, I don't know a leader that would disagree with you, Jen. But I want to push a little bit here on our thinking, because I think that even though we recognize that, and we can even apply it in our work. Let's give an example. In my work, I had to learn how to schedule time in advance in my calendar so that I could be in classrooms and spend more time in instructional leadership. Otherwise, I knew that other things would lead me away from that. There's a ton of research that shows that principals spend a lot less time doing that than they want. And so you and I have talked about this in so many other settings, and I know a lot of other leaders do too. But the place I want to push is this, that if we recognize that, okay, this is the conundrum, I've got to create a better system so I can train someone else to do some things that maybe just need to be taken off my plate so I'm free to do some things that only I can do. Where I want to push is this. If we know that's true and we're actually applying that in areas where we're seeing it be effective, then where else can we be applying it? Because I think that until we're aware of that other, how do I say this? Learning doesn't happen until we become aware of what we're not aware of.
Right.
And so I just want to invite listeners into reflection, because this is something that I have to do on a normal basis. And especially with leaders and high achieving leaders, I'll often invite them into this thought process too, which is to think about, and I'm going to use a model here that was developed by Sam Horn, who wrote a book called Someday is Not a Day in the Week. And she uses what's called a happiness box. And so there's 4 questions here, Jen, and I won't make you answer these for me, but I'm just going to role play them to listeners, because this is just one way to do this. I'm just so to just push on this pressure. If you had to answer these 4 questions, and question 1 is, what are you doing right now in your life that you want to? You could make a quick list of those things, those habits, those patterns that you're glad every day you're doing. I'm running, I'm spending time with my kids, I'm eating healthy, whatever it is, the thing you love to do. Then question 2 would be this: what are you not doing in your life that you want to? Now that's a whole nother category, and that could be work or that could be personal, but there's usually actions or habits or achievements or something that we want to be doing more consistently that we're not, if we're honest. And then question 3 is, what are you doing in your life you don't want to be doing? Because sometimes you can control those and sometimes you can't. I mean, lives and circumstances put things in front of us that sometimes we have no choice. But then sometimes we're involved in habits or actions that we'd love to stop doing if we could give ourselves permission to, or train someone else to do it. And then question 4 would be, what are you not doing in your life and you don't want to be doing it? And that's a celebration, because there probably are some things you're no longer doing that you kicked that habit a long time ago, and you can pat yourself on the back and go, oh yeah, I am capable of stopping things in order to say yes to other things. And the reason that just a little reflection like that can be helpful for me because when I lead leaders through that reflective cycle I just did with you, I do it to myself, is I almost always end up recognizing there's a tension happening of things I want to be accomplishing that I'm not yet, that are usually tied to things I'm doing currently that are keeping me from doing the things that I want to be doing. And if that tension exists, and it is something that you could address or control because it's not dependent on time of your life or geography, or I mean, there's a lot of things you may or may not be able to control, but sometimes there are. And so, Jen, I'll give you the most obvious example, and we've talked about this in other settings. When I started this podcast, I used to write it, edit it, put it on the newsletter, send it out every single week, and it would take me a huge chunk of each of my week to commit. So usually, and I was a school leader, usually after bedtimes or after school events, Will would be up on Tuesday night getting it finished all. So Wednesday morning it would be out there. And at some point when I was doing this cycle of questions with myself, I started asking myself, what are some things I want to be doing more? Well, I wanted more sleep. I wanted not to be so stressed out on Tuesday nights. I love doing that. I didn't want to give up doing this. So I just said, well, if I could train someone else to do it for me, even if I'd hire somebody, what would that look like? So enter Emily, who I trained, and now she does all of it. She's done more than 160 something episodes for us now. And ever since I trained her, even though it actually took more time the first few times for me to do that, I just go to bed on Tuesday night, Jen, and I wake up and there's content on Wednesday morning. And now I wake up on Monday morning and it's there, and I wake up on Friday morning, it's there. And so that's just one example of when that tension exists. How can I create a system to train someone else to do something for me so that it frees me up to do something else that only I can do?
Right. Well, and I think the key there is taking the time to train, taking the time to identify what needs done. Because you said you were going to push a little. I'm going to push too. I think there are actually a lot of leaders out there who truly don't believe in systems. I actually got in a little bit of a argument, a positive one, with a coach that I ran into along the way, and his mantra is people first. You win with people, he said. You win with people. And I said, well, you absolutely do if those people are ready and if those people know the goals and the values and what happens if I don't, that kind of things. Like if
Mhm.
you had just said, Emily's a great kid, I really like her. Let's go ahead and have her put the podcast out. It would have been a rough go of it. And she probably would have quit because you would have had
Mhm.
to come down the hall one day and say, hey, this episode's lousy. Emily, what did you
Mhm.
do? But you identified her skill set. You identified that you were going to put the time into making it work. And then you gave her, the support during the grace period she needed. And so, I think, again, to circle it back to principals who are leading a building, I think when you ask yourself those four questions that Will posed earlier, or you identify what is it that's exhausting me? What is it that's making me miserable? That's where you have to ask yourself, is this a people problem or a systems problem?
Mhm.
And either way, there's probably a solution, but I see many people solving the wrong problem. They think it's a people problem when it's not. It's a people who's exhausted, confused, undercommunicated with, those kind of things. And that's fixed through systems. And every now and then it truly is just a people problem. And then people got to go sometimes. But I think it's worth identifying, as you do in this chapter, that there's systems that produce outcomes. That's the goal.
And then there's things too, Jen. I'm glad you said that. That's so practical and so true. Um, there's also tools that can save you time. And so, I know sometimes people are afraid of trying new things. And I have to admit, the older I get, the harder it is for me to jump in and try something new. But there are tools that can help you save time. So whether it's things like Grammarly that can help you save time when you're trying to compose an email, or I didn't even put this one in the book, but I use a tool called Boomerang, where if I'm trying to compose an email that I want to go out the next morning and I don't want to send it at 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night because I don't want my friends or colleagues reading mail from me that late, I can schedule it to go out at whatever time I put it into the Boomerang category, and it schedules it out for me. And so it's funny because I do a lot of my even now agenda planning for the next weeks on Thursdays so that they Friday morning they can all go out. And I was actually in a meeting, Jen, doing a training when one of those went out I was in the training, and one of the people in the training got the email. They're like, "Hey, how'd that happen? You're training, and I just got an email from you." And I was like, "Oh, it's a tool." And so there are all kinds of tools out there that people can use. Whether it's like you and I use Google Forms constantly and Docs to share notes with each other across states. I won't go through all of them because I know that there'll be ones people are using, and there's new ones that are going to be existing by the time this comes out, probably. But there are ways you can save yourself time too, and implement those as systems in the way you can save time as well. I have a friend named John Boyd. He leads a school, St. Genevieve, Missouri, and he's been able to use ChatGPT to help him learn how to code so that he can take Google Forms and accelerate the reports he's been doing on student data. I would have never thought about that, Jen, but he said, well, he told me a few weeks ago, he took a report that was a 30-minute normal process and got it down to 3 minutes because so there's lots of ways we could take this conversation, but I just want to say to leaders that just some questions to keep in mind. When is the last time that you have mapped out something you really want to accomplish and then put those things as benchmarks on your calendar in advance? How have you included contingency plans for the goals that you want to reach? Because you're always going to have a backup if something's going to happen. What activities are you anticipating that are coming up in the next year or 2 or 3? And how can you go ahead and begin to strategize those things now? And then what's that thing you're dreaming about doing? And get it out of your head and give yourself permission to think about it as a system and as a schedule, and begin to just execute those things that you're already so good at in school leadership for those things that you also want to be better at in work or in life. So Jen, I'll stop there, but anything else you want to add as we wrap up?
No, I just think these are good questions that our listeners can just, mull over as they're driving to work and think about what it is that's holding them back.
All right, Principal Matters listeners. Well, thank you for reflecting with us this Monday as you step into, I hope you're stepping into a summer break, at least a summer break soon. And Jen, I know ISTE's right around the corner for you. So why don't you give a shout out for what people can expect if they want to find you there?
Oh, you guys, I apologize in advance. You're gonna get so sick of Jen Schwanke. I'll be moderating a panel for female leaders. I'll be doing a learning stage event. I'm presenting twice, and then there will be a book signing too. So around every corner, you'll see me, I think. So a huge thank you to the team at ASCD and ISTE for the opportunities. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to celebrating all those things, Jen. And so, Principal Matters listeners, as you step into your week, if you want to reach out to either one of us, you can always find Jen at her website at jenschwanke.com or my resources at williamdparker.com. But until next time, thanks for doing what matters. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Monday Matters.